What if I told you there's a hidden enemy lurking inside millions of our bodies? Something most of us have never even heard of, but it could be having devastating consequences for our health.
According to biomedical scientist Dr. Rhonda Patrick, this one thing can literally double your risk of dying early. Yeah, you heard that right, double.
And it gets worse. It also jacks up your risk of metastatic cancer. That's the kind that spreads by a whopping 44%. So, what is this invisible threat? What could be quietly sabotaging your health from the inside out, even if you look and feel totally fine on the surface?
Well, here it is, visceral fat. Now, this is not the fat you can pinch on your stomach or your thighs. Nope. This is a much more dangerous, deep internal fat that wraps itself around your vital organs, like your liver and your intestines.
So let's dig into what this hidden threat really is and why it's so incredibly dangerous, even for people who look pretty lean. Okay, it is absolutely crucial to understand the difference here. On one hand, you've got subcutaneous fat. That's the jiggly stuff right under your skin that you can pinch. But on the other hand, you have visceral fat, hidden deep in your belly. You can't see it, you can't feel it, and that's the real problem. And this brings us to this bizarre idea of being skinny fat. It means you can be at a perfectly healthy weight, you can look trim, but you could still be carrying around dangerous amounts of this visceral fat internally. Your bathroom scale just doesn't tell the whole story. So, how can you get a clue if you have too much? Well, a simple tape measure is a pretty good place to start. For women, a waist over 35 inches is a bit of a red flag, and for men, it's 40 inches. Now, if you want the gold standard, the most accurate measurement comes from a clinical DEXA scan. And if you look at the data here, you can see a really clear trend. As we all get older, both men and women, the average amount of this internal fat just steadily creeps up, and with it, so does our risk for all sorts of health problems. So, what makes this specific type of fat so uniquely harmful? Well, it's because visceral fat isn't just sitting there doing nothing. Oh no, it's metabolically active, and that's what makes it so incredibly dangerous. Honestly, the best way to think about it is like this. High levels of visceral fat are like having a whole new toxic organ that's just set up shop inside your body and is constantly causing trouble. This rogue organ is busy. It's pumping out inflammatory molecules that damage your cells and increase your cancer risk. It's constantly dumping fatty acids into your blood. And you know that feeling of being tired, lethargic, or having brain fog? That chronic inflammation is a major reason why. And this brings us to the core mechanism of how it does all this damage. We can call it the insulin taxi hijack. It's a really simple way to understand a pretty complex and destructive cycle happening inside of us. Okay, here's how it works. You eat a meal, right? Your blood sugar goes up. So your pancreas sends out little insulin taxes to pick up that sugar and deliver it to your cells for energy. But the fatty acids being spewed out by that visceral fat basically block the road. They hijack the taxis, so the sugar can't get picked up, and it's just left stranded in your blood. Your body panics, sends out way more taxis, and eventually your blood sugar just crashes. If you have ever felt that massive energy slump, that brain fog an hour or two after eating, this is why. This crazy blood sugar roller coaster is what causes the crash. And you guessed it, the intense cravings for more sugary, high-energy foods, which just starts the whole vicious cycle all over again. Now, I know that all sounds pretty grim, but here's the amazing part of this story. This dangerous internal enemy, it has a critical weakness. So now we're going to talk about how to get rid of it and get rid of it fast. And I love this quote from Dr. Patrick. She says, the best part of this whole thing is that visceral fat is not a life sentence. You can lose it, and you can lose it quite easily and rapidly. So what's the game plan? How do we fight back? Well, the science is pretty clear. First, vigorous aerobic exercise. We're talking running, cycling, swimming. That's like a direct attack. Next, anything that creates a calorie deficit, whether that's through your diet or things like intermittent fasting, basically starves the fat of its fuel. And finally, you can't ignore the basics, making sure you get a full night's sleep, managing stress, and cutting back on excess alcohol. These are all absolutely critical. And here is probably the most encouraging news of all. When your body decides it needs to start burning fat for energy, visceral fat is the very first thing to go. So your efforts are rewarded almost immediately by targeting the most dangerous stuff first. So the power is really in your hands now. The enemy has been identified and its weaknesses are crystal clear. The only question left is, what's your first move going to be?